what's the angle here? Surely one nun killing herself isn't a reason to send me there. And they say it was quite cryptic. They say for once, it's not us that is hiding something.
Yeah.
And that's not really revisited unless they're talking about the person who's going with him. They do explain that he has a young nun who's going to go with him who has a lot of experience in this field. And he takes that to mean experience in Romania.
So maybe they knew about her in the first place.
Maybe.
That she was the key.
I'm going to guess that is correct. So you cut to London then, and you get to meet Erin for the first time, who is a trainee nun, a nun in training, if you will.
Yeah.
She's chatting to a load of British kids in school, as it's a nun-raised school, as was quite common back in the day. What?
Catholic school.
Catholic school.
Yeah.
She's not in her habit. She's just in normal street clothes, and she's chatting to them about, not taking the Bible too literally, and it's God's love letter to us, I think is the word she uses, which is quite
sweet,
quite a nice way of looking at religion.
Yeah.
If more people looked at it like that, maybe it'd be a bit more interesting in terms of the modern day, modern generation.
Yeah.
She then gets swaffed by the head. What are they called? The head sister.
Head sister.
Who just looks very grumpy, a bit like Maggie Smith in Sister Act before she gets happy.
Oh my God, crispy.
But there's some really bad accents in this scene.
Terrible.
Especially one little girl.
Yeah.
Just awful. The proper Dick Van Dyke, London-y.
Yeah.
But this is more of a posh accent, but it's just not good.
Not good.
And she is then, Erin, is then asked to speak to the head sister, who tells her that the Vatican has a job for her. And I'd imagine as a nun who's not even done her vows yet, that is quite a big deal.
Yeah.
So she goes outside and meets Father Burke, who then explains a little bit more what's going to happen and where they're going. And then they go to Romania. So we cut back to Romania. And you get a dream sequence here from one of from the young lad who found the nun who was hung in the first act.
Yeah.
It's a dream sequence which is broken by the sound of the door knocking. He then is covered in sweat and he's wearing long johns. And he goes to answer the door, and it is the two people we've just been talking about, Erin and Dr. Burke, and Erin and Father Burke, who then want to speak to him about what happened, and he's asked to take them to the convent.
Abbey.
Convent, the Abbey.
Yeah.
So they can have a look round and see what's happened.
Basically.
You get a nice little unexplored love interest, really, between the lad's name is Frenchie. He's a French Canadian, and you kind of get a weird love interest between him and Erin, where because she's not yet a nun, he's almost jokingly the whole way through talking about her. Well, are you sure you want to be a nun? It'd be an awful waste. Which is quite a nice dynamic, but then it's not really explored all that much, because she is a nun, really, at the end of the day. Just a few flirty, glancy looks. And then they get to the Abbey, and that's when things go a bit wrong, really. So the first thing you notice when they get to the Abbey is it's all surrounded by crosses. And it's made a point of by Frenchie, who is explaining the whole time that the local village don't like this place. They don't mention it. They're very superstitious. Unless it's absolutely essential, they don't mention its existence at all.
Here.
And he, who has been the reason Frenchie goes there is he delivers food to them. And he's been delivering food for years, and he's never seen a single person there. So that's strange in itself. And we'll come back to that later.
And all
why
the crosses
that's strange.
are actually all buried. It's not technically because it's a holy ground. People are building crosses to keep the evil in. That's a line he says, isn't it? It's to keep people in rather than to keep evil out. Which proves to be true. As they walk towards the castle, he takes them towards the place where the young nun was hung earlier in the movie, and the blood is still wet. It's not. What's the word? It's not coagulated yet.
There you go. And it's been weeks at this point, so that's pretty strange for that to happen. So then they go straight in, don't knock the door, because, technically they're Catholics, so they all own everything, so it makes no difference. They go straight through the door, and you somehow manage to see this ghostly... So not ghostly, she's wearing a black shawl kind of thing.
Yeah, so she's hidden. You can just about make out some eyes, but I don't like her.
She has an English accent, and she basically talks to the priest and to the... Firstly, straight away, she notices, you haven't done your vows, to Erin, and she kind of goes, all right. Step, leave me alone, Mum, I understand. And they kind of... Father Burke basically says, I want to speak to sisters
charge,
and get their opinion as what's going on here, because the whole point of them being there is not just to keep the faith and make sure everything's okay. It's to prove that the ground is still holy and it's not completely lost.
Yeah.
I'd like to know what they would do if they report that it is lost. Is if they would send loads of priests, like the army or something,
and start all over again.
Yeah. But either way, I digress. So yeah, this creepy woman sort of says to them, "Look, we've started our vow of silence." She doesn't say it in this cadence, by the way. She says it in a much scarier way than what I'm doing.
Yeah, started
our vow of silence. It wasn't anything like that.
No, we just sound like we're old and from Wakanda.
Yeah. Sorry. Can you come back tomorrow? Because we're busy, basically. Yeah. Which they say, yeah, that's fine. So Frenchie leaves. He goes to leave. And the other two are going to stay in the convent, but not in the main part. It's like a lodgings part. So Frenchie walks outside, and there's a couple of times in this film where it does this, where they say, right, you better get going because you don't want to be caught on the roads when it's dark. And he goes outside, and it's already dark.
Yeah, and it's already ghostly dark,
and misty, and
mistiness.
You go, oh, for God's sake! Like, does it really need to be this misty?
Yeah.
And sorry, we've missed a little bit here. That was earlier on when they were looking at the graves outside.
These are
so yeah, we have missed actually quite an important part of the film. So yeah, before they went inside, there was a part where Frenchie took them to the pantry where he leaves the food normally.
Yes.
And they find the woman who had hung herself, who he'd left on the floor, who now is sat completely upright,
and her head's back on.
Yeah, her head's now back on, but he didn't mention that her head had fallen off, so I'm not sure if that's a continuity error.
All he said was, I brought her in and she was led down.
She was led on the floor, and now she is set up.
Oh, very
He's
good.
not that French.
He's not that French. You sound like Lumiere now.
Yeah. So yeah, they do go and bury her outside to give her a proper burial, and that's where you see graves that have bells on them, and this is actually 100% true. And they mention that during the plague, people were so scared of being assumed dead when they weren't that they would actually have bells attached to their graves, and that would go all the way into the grave, into the coffin. And if you were buried alive, you could ring the bell, and hopefully someone would hear it and bring you out. And that's 100% true. And yeah, so that's mentioned, and it's quite important for later on. Skipping back to where we've just got to, Frenchie's now gone back outside in the pitch black and mist. It looks like a thriller video. It's gross. And he sees a nun walking just around, just walking around,
ghostly,
quite creepy, but not in a jump scare way. Just kind of like just floating around the place. He follows her, and then sees her fall out of a tree directly above him and hang herself.
That made me jump.
It did, and made me jump as well. Lands right on top of her, and it's the gross woman whose face had been pecked by crows earlier on, the nun who we'd found in the first place.
She's gone all like zombie-like now, and just
very zombified, which is a bit strange, but okay, whatever. He then manages to get her off him. And he walks past. He's like crawling backwards through the crosses, and she can't cross that cross line. Ironically, so he quite funnily actually picks up a cross and then takes it with him. And he's like, "Screw this! I'm not getting involved." So yeah, Frenchie's gone home, and he has been instructed. This is the best. Right, I like this bit. He was instructed by Father Burke to come and get him in a couple of days.
Yeah,
he's just seen a zombie. And he's still, we'll come back to it in a moment, but he's still going to come back and get them in 2 days' time. So yeah, that's hilarious. Yeah. But yeah, so the two priesty people, the sister and the mister, are now staying in the lodgings. They've had a quick chat. And it's quite important now that you learn that Erin actually has visions. So she's almost a medium or, sort of...
Very much. Again, this is now going to link with The Conjuring because... the couple in The Conjuring, the wife, she has visions, and she gets the visions. So, again, I thought this was a big link here.
Yeah.
So she has visions, and she tells them, Mary always points the way. She's like, I can't necessarily remember my visions, but all I remember is Mary always points the way.
And then you get Burke telling a story of how he knew a similar boy when he was younger who was possessed, and he performed an exorcism on him with the permission of the church, and it ended up killing him. And his name, funnily enough, was Daniel. So yeah, you get that, and it's quite funny because they tell you that, and then within minutes you cut to a dream sequence. Well, no, not a dream sequence. Sorry, you get Father Burke, who for some reason feels the need, and this happens again a lot in this film. They're very thick. in this
movie.
movie.
We're going to go investigate that.
Yeah, there's a lot of investigating, which after the second time you just stop. But yeah, he goes outside because he thinks he hears Daniel's voice, so he kind of follows him outside and he sees him out the window and he kind of goes and has a look what's going on, and he ends up by the graveyard where we were just discussing, with the bells all over the coffins. And Daniel, by this point, he can see him and he's just trying to talk to him. Daniel then attacks him and a snake comes out of his mouth and kind of pushes him backwards, and he falls into an empty grave, into a coffin that then closes on him. And then magically is filled with dirt and looks like it's never actually been dug up.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's now buried alive, and I actually thought, oh, they've killed him off. That was quick.
That was quick.
So he's now in the coffin.
Yeah.
He then cut to Erin, who's having a dream.
Yeah.
And the dream is it's a flashback dream, so it's kind of it's going to show you what's going to happen in the next sort of like hour of the film, the final hour of the film. And we won't mention that because it will actually kind of spoil the ending, so there's no need to mention it. But yeah, she wakes up and she kind of is looking for Burke because she notices he's not there. I remember why he woke up the radio. They turned the radio on downstairs and that woke Burke up. Okay. So yeah, she goes sort of looking for him, and she can hear the bell then. And after she can hear the bell, she kind of figures that it's him. She can hear him, and then creepily all of the bells start ringing in all of the graves.
And then she starts to see nuns again.
She
follows nuns, don't she?
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah. So all the bells are ringing then, and it's kind of creepy, and she uses her like vision powers to sort of hone in on the one that's actually got Burke in it. So she digs Burke out, and in the meantime, when Burke's like, "Oh, she's found me, thank God," you start hearing scratching on the outside of the grave. And then all of a sudden the hands are attacking Burke's face and sort of squishing him, and then she breaks through with the shovel and just misses his face by inches. So yeah, they get out. Right, personally, that would have been it for me. Once I'd nearly been buried alive, that would have been that's me going home now.
Yeah.
Screw these miracle things. I'm just gonna go home. Yeah. No, they persevere, and both of them go back to bed, and then it cuts to the next morning. Yeah, they're not overly happy, to be fair, because they then go inside and they want to speak to the rest of the nuns. So the first day, I thought he made it quite clear that Burke wanted to talk to the nuns. Yeah. But it turns out, no, Erin is going to go and talk to the nuns.
Erin's going to do it all.
This is not mentioned or discussed by anyone in the film, and at no point do they say Erin must go and talk to the nuns.
So basically, I don't know whether it's because when he looked round in the grave he was in, he then found all these books and all this, like... artifact, basically. It's very, very old. So I think they kind of they miss a little bit of continuity of the fact that he's going to sit and read these books and suss this out. Can you go and chat to the nuns because you're a nun and you can go do like nun talk?
talk nun things.
Yeah, girl talk.
Rosemary beads and habits and celibacy, all that stuff.
All that.
So that happens. So she goes off through this door that opens. And it's only open between the day and the night. Yeah. I don't know why. But, one other question. What? How does the other nun get in? Does she just stay out all the time? The main nun, who's just sat on the chair outside the gate? Well, I know that, but we'll come... Yeah, either way. Okay, so she does go in eventually, and she takes her a while to actually find a real nun. But she goes into this chapel, and the nun is continuously saying the same prayer, a short prayer. And she goes to touch... her, but she ends up being stopped by another young nun who says, no, we must pray all the time. That's the only way we survive. So please don't break her train of thought. So she makes friends with this nun, and they go and have a chat. And this is kind of where the explanation of the nun, the actual nun character, is explored. It basically was that an idiot who owned the abbey originally was a devil worshipper and wanted to raise demons and raise the devil. And ended up being tricked into raising the nun itself. And what it would do is, because it was a nunnery, would take the form of whoever of a nun, because it was what it needed to fit in. And then it was the Crusaders who then broke. Well, he said the church, but it was the Crusaders.
It was the Crusaders.
Came in and using the blood of Christ
sealed the
portal.
Opened.
So the nun was no more. But then the bloody Germans bombed the abbey. I keep getting that wrong. and then reopened the nun, and then it's been pretty rubbish for the nuns ever since.
Yeah, so, yeah, they reopened the portal